Okay. Good afternoon. Just a couple of things at the top. I think you saw the Secretary join the First Lady today at a Joining Forces event over at the White House, and he was honored to do that. Joining Forces, as you know, does a lot of wonderful things to try to help stitch together communities with the military and veteran community, particularly families, to improve their lives and to look after their needs. And today he was proud to be up there with the VA Secretary Dennis McDonough to honor children, particularly who are in families that are basically caregivers for their loved ones, for their for the veterans and the former troops in the household. So just a terrific experience. On that note, as you know, tomorrow is Veterans Day. The Secretary will be participating at Arlington National Cemetery in a wreath-laying event there. And there'll also be a joint service honor procession marching through the cemetery that, again, will evoke the memory of the unknown soldier funeral procession. And just as a reminder, today is the second day now where the public will be able to actually walk right up to the Tomb of the Unknown and lay flowers as well. And we encourage people who are in the Washington, D.C. area to do that. And then, of course, a happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps. November 10th is their birthday, and we wish them well, thank them for all that they do to continue to defend this nation, as well as Marine Corps families who are very much serving as much as their Marines are. And with that, we'll take questions. I think I got Lita on the line, yeah?
Yeah, thanks, John. Can I just a quick follow-up from the other day. The Afghan pilots who left Tajikistan, can you give us an update on sort of their progress and whether, my understanding is they're coming to the United States. Do you know how or when that's going to happen, and anything on kind of where, if they've left UAE at this point?
In Abu Dhabi, I mean, they arrived very early this morning. My understanding is they are still there. The Operation Allies Welcome Task Force and the embassy is registering today to begin the processing for their eventual admission to the United States as parolees. This remains a state-led effort, of course, so I'd refer you to the State Department for more detail. Yeah, Joe?
I would like to follow up on many questions you have received over the last 2 days about the attempt of assassinating the Iraqi Prime Minister. I was wondering if you have any updates on that topic.
No.
Nothing?
No.
Could you tell us why the Pentagon is reluctant in accusing Iranian-backed militias of launching those UAVs? When we heard General McKenzie saying that he accused them directly that Iranian-backed militias were behind the assassination, the attempt of assassination.
There's no reluctance here, Joe. We want to be judicious and careful about what we're saying here from the podium. I've said, I don't know how many times over the last couple of days, that these attacks are certainly in keeping with the kinds of tactics and tools and procedures that we have seen militias backed by Iran use in Iraq. But I am not in a position now to speak to specific attribution, and I'm not going to go beyond that. It is under investigation by our Iraqi partners, and I think we need to respect that process and allow the Iraqis to speak to this when and how they're able to.
But don't you think those attacks against the residence of Prime Minister Kazemi are similar to the attacks against At-Tanf in Syria? What's the difference? When we heard the statement from CENTCOM in regards to At-Tanf attacks accusing the Iranian-backed militia, why not now?
Joe, I'll go back to what I just said before. I think we're talking past one another. As I said before, we have seen these kinds of tactics, these kinds of tools, UAVs, used by Iran-backed militias in Iraq to target our people, to target our facilities, and of course to target our Iraqi partners. I'm not walking away from the similarities here. I'm just saying that I'm not prepared to get into specific attribution at this time, nor would it be prudent for me to do that while the Iraqis are investigating this. Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line here is the department is not speaking or sending the same message here. We have the highest general in the region saying one thing. You're not saying totally something different, but not the same way. He was more, I wouldn't put it like forthcoming, but he was not prudent as much as you are. Why is this different? It's the same department, it's the same military.
I don't think there's a lot of difference here, Fadi, and I think, honestly, you guys are making much more out of this than you need to. We have all seen the militias operating in Iraq that are supported by Iran use these kinds of tools and tactics. We're deeply concerned about that. And what's more important is not whether I'm going as far as a general's going in terms of what we're saying about it. It's what we're doing about it and how we're working with our Iraqi partners to do what we have to do to protect our people and our facilities, and drawing a bright line around the threat that we're still under inside Iraq because of these militias backed by Iran. And that's what really matters here, not whether there's a nuance change between what General McKenzie said the other day and what I'm saying here. We're all of us, including General McKenzie, are fully focused on the threat that our people and our Iraqi partners are under inside Iraq by these militias, which we know are backed by Iran. That's where the focus is.
Does the discussion extend to what the U.S. can or the department can provide in order for Mr. al-Qasimi or any other Iraqi official inside the green zone can have the systems that can deal with this type of threat, which is, we're talking about drones. Have the Iraqis asked for assistance in that?
I'm not aware of any specific security assistance request by the Iraqis along those lines, along force protection lines. No.
Any other assistance request?
I'm not aware of any. No. Let's see. Paul Schenkman.
Hi, John. Thanks for doing this. I'd be interested to ask you about some tensions along the border with Russia. So in addition to the concerns about the migrant flows from Belarus into Poland, we've seen Russian fly nuclear-capable bombers in Belarusian airspace. And then separately, we've seen what Russia describes as a significant increase of NATO flights over the Black Sea, some of which it's deployed its fighters to intercept. And then there's the ongoing ground buildup along the Russian border with Ukraine. So I wonder, do you see any of these things as linked? Does the Pentagon have any concern about them collectively? And then specifically, can you comment on the significant increase of NATO flights over the Black Sea? Does that match your understanding of NATO's recent missions? Thank you.
For the alliance, Paul, I'd refer you to Brussels to speak to specifics with respect to any NATO-led operations. I can tell you that as a NATO ally ourselves, and certainly unilaterally, and you've seen us do this, I mean, we will continue to fly, sail, and operate in international airspace and international of sexual assault and sexual harassment inside the force. On his first full day in office, as you remember, he tasked the services to come up with an assessment of how they're doing and ideas for how they can improve it. And shortly thereafter, we launched the IRC, and we have a range of reforms that we are working through on this implementation roadmap. So we take the issue extremely seriously, and the Secretary has made clear that we've got to stop kicking the can down the road on this. It's time for innovative solutions. So should there be a report by the IG on that issue, as you've indicated, I can assure you the Secretary will read it and take its findings very, very seriously as well, because it's a high priority for him.
And would he potentially consider what he could do from his own office outside of further IG evaluation to?
He is always open to new and innovative ideas to get at this problem set. And if there is something that he believes is important outside what the IRC has come up with, he absolutely will consider that. Yeah, Janie.
Thank you, John. On the transfer of wartime operational control to South Korea, it was reported that there was a difference of view between U.S. and South Korea on the transfer of the OPCON. What difference of view does U.S. have?
Difference of a view? Yeah. So the question assumes there's a difference of view here. Look, I would just say this about OPCON, and that we remain in conversation with our ROK allies about OPCON. The decision on the timing for any final operational capability, that's going to be an assessment made inside the alliance. Neither Secretary Austin nor his counterpart in Seoul have made any decisions on the timing for that kind of an assessment. The other thing that's important to remember is that the OPCON transition is going to be conditions-based in accordance with bilaterally agreed upon conditions inside the OPCON transition plan. And as an alliance, we're making strides in that direction, and we still have some work to do.
Do you think, excuse me, because I have something like that. Do you think the conditions for the transfer of OPCON to South Korea are in place?
As I said, we are working inside the alliance on progress towards those conditions.
But still need some more exercise between U.S. and South Korea, so you need more, sufficiently.
Well, I'm not going to, you're asking me to assess now progress towards OPCON, and I'm not going to do that. As I said in my very first comment, this is something that the alliance has to decide, and the Secretary and his counterpart have not made any kind of decisions on timing right now. It's a conditions-based process. We're going to continue to consult with our ROK allies as we move forward on that. Okay? You're welcome.
John, Afghanistan?
Can I get to somebody else just in case, since I already had nobody? All right, go ahead.
You can go.
Lucas, you've had like 7. Go ahead.
John, can you please update us on the number of immediate family members of U.S. service members in Afghanistan?
Update you in the number?
Yeah.
I don't have a whole number on that, no.
Okay, so, I mean, the withdrawal ended on August 30th, and today is November 10th. I mean, how is it possible that the department doesn't know how many immediate family members are still left
I didn't
US
say
service in Afghanistan?
I didn't say we didn't know. I said I don't have a number for you. We believe it's certainly most likely in the dozens. But one of the reasons we put the memo out last week was to encourage service members to come forward. It's a dynamic thing, Fadi. I mean, you make it sound like a snap on a chalk line and boom, you got to know every number. That's not even true for American citizens. As American citizens in Afghanistan continue to come forward, because maybe they've changed their mind. Maybe they didn't want out by August 30th, and maybe now they do. And so the number has changed a little bit. We're working this as hard as we can. We take the obligation seriously to our people and to their families. And that's why we put the advisory out to the services last week, to give them a place, a portal, where they can go to put information on there that we can then share with our State Department colleagues to get them out. We're going to stay at this. I've said it before, but I think it bears repeating. The military mission in Afghanistan is over, but the mission itself to continue to get our people out of Afghanistan and back home or to their new homes in the United States is not over, and we're going to continue to work inside the interagency to do that.
I understand and appreciate all of that, but the question remains. These are immediate family members of U.S. service members in Afghanistan. While many Afghans who have no relatives in the U.S. were evacuated a long time ago, the department, up until last week, did not issue a memo or consider this issue. I mean, don't you think it's late in the process?
So,
don't you think this should have been a priority to begin with?
It was a priority. Fadi, let me answer your question, please.
No, I'm just trying to explain.
I know that. I get it. But we did take it as a serious priority back then. We were working it. Just because there wasn't a memo on the streets doesn't mean that we weren't focused on it or that we weren't talking to people about it. But more and more people were coming forward and wanted help for how to organize this effort. And now that the State Department has set up an interagency process over there, we now want to more discreetly, more carefully funnel these requests and that information to the care coordinator as appropriate. So it's an ongoing process. It's somewhat iterative. We're getting better at it over time. And the fact that that we didn't issue a memo earlier doesn't mean that we weren't thinking about it, weren't focused on it, weren't hearing from troops that were concerned about family members. I mean, I have to take issue, I think, with the tone of your question, which seems to be that we just didn't care until last week, and that's just not true.
Yeah, but the fact remains that we are talking about that issue still now.
And you know what, Fadi? We're probably going to be talking about that issue for some time to come. And that has to be okay. It doesn't mean that we're not taking it seriously. In fact, quite the contrary.
Is there any concern about their safety in Afghanistan?
Of course there is. Of course there is. Yeah, Lucas.
So what I'm curious about is, it seems that when there's a memo like that comes out that you guys do want out, that you give it to the media. But the only reason that one came out is because somebody reported on it. So it just begs the question, when the COVID mandatory vaccines came out, that memo, you guys gave it to us, you provided it to us. So if this is something that there really was an interest in telling members of the military, hey, this is this consolidated list or database or whatever you want to call it of people, then why wasn't it publicized by OSD policy? I mean, how do people even, how